Science can't explain everything. It has to be a why. You just can't answer with science.
Islam's not for me. Like, I don't look Muslim.
So what are you doing? You're eating the body and the blood of God.
It could have gone real bad.
Breatharians believe that humans don't have to eat.
He had the knife in his hand, just dropped, and I was just like,
If someone has a knife, it's very easy for you to die.
even walking down the street at night, if you have a confident walk about you, you never get picked on.
To have an intimate interaction with a female and then to just throw them aside and pretend like you don't care about them is just a complete lie.
And also, if that happened to your sister, man, I'll kill someone over that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. So, last couple of episodes have been absolute bangers. Really enjoyed recording them. Really enjoyed bringing you, brothers and sisters, this content of self-improvement through the lens of Islam. So, we're looking to continue that today. Really excited for this one. Have a brother here who is a Muay Thai fighter. I don't know if he still does that, or he definitely used to, but he's into, a bunch of self-improvement. He's a revert as well. And yeah, just really looking forward to getting this one on the road. Brother, can you introduce yourself?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Daniel. I'm from America. I'm 25 years old now, and
MashaAllah.
I reverted to Islam last December. So it's been like 7 months now. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, like I said, I'm from America, and I grew up with a pretty non-religious background. But I grew up in like rural America. I had land, so I spent a lot of time in the forest and grew up hunting. And so yeah, I kind of have a unique background, I guess, as a Muslim, which there's more of us popping up every day now. Which yeah, you're aware of this. It's
Yeah.
happening like wildfire that people are becoming Muslim. But for now, we're still like these kind of unicorns, you and I both. But I think soon Islam is going to spread throughout the West, inshallah.
Inshallah, bro. Yeah, so are you from the East or West Coast, or maybe, I guess, Middle America?
Yeah, Midwest. So I'm from Missouri, which is like basically
Oh,
right in the middle.
yeah, that really is like countryside, foresty sort of area, right?
Very, yeah. Everyone like, I don't know. A lot of people will say like, where I'm from is like rednecks. You know the term rednecks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
You don't
yeah.
sound like one, though.
I don't.
No, I wouldn't say
Yeah.
so.
If I hang around my dad, I start to kind of sound like a redneck sometimes. Me and him, like, I don't know, we just kind of get into that groove, especially if we like go hunting together or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
It
mashallah.
comes
Yeah.
it comes out sometimes. Some American people they pick up like I have a bit of a twang sometimes, but generally my accent is like quite central. Usually
Yeah,
people
no,
can't guess where I'm from. They're like, "Are you from Cali? Are you from? Where are you from?"
well, I wouldn't go that far. You don't sound like a proper Californian, so I mean it's a
California?
compliment. Don't worry. Yeah, it's a compliment. No, that's really cool. So you mentioned like hunting because I've never killed an animal or anything like that for food, well, or for any purpose. But is that something you do like on a regular? Because that is something which I have been interested in. It looks quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, alhamdulillah, man. I'm looking back. Like as a kid, I didn't really realize it was just like normal because my dad did that and he took me out and that's just what we did. But looking back, I'm very grateful to have been exposed to that
Yeah.
because I see how like I don't know, I don't get like what's the word, skittish or queasy around like blood and guts and killing animals and stuff because I was exposed to it when I was like first time I killed a deer. It was like quite a large animal. I
Mm.
was 8 or 9 years old. I'm just a little boy. Yeah, I killed a deer,
Sure.
and I remember my dad hangs it up. Like puts it on a rope and pulleys it up, and just hands me the knife and said, "Okay, cut from here to here." I thought, "Okay, really?" And I did it, and I remember the first time it was really intense, and the smell was very strong and everything. But
Yeah.
you know, anyways, I did it growing up as a teenager, and I'm very grateful that I did get to do it. Nowadays, I live in Thailand, and it's yeah, Thais don't really hunt, and like as a foreigner, I think it's illegal to hunt. But
Yeah.
I
Probably.
still recently I've gotten into archery, and you know that is a sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu
Mm.
alaihi wasallam. And so that's a good thing to get into. That's something I would recommend. I'm enjoying it so far. Growing up, I usually shot a rifle, so I'm
Mm.
like not super used to the bow and arrow yet, but it's quite fun. But yeah, I mean, I think I would recommend if you're like interested in getting into something like that. Depending on the laws where you live, like you can maybe go to a shooting range or something like that and try. Shooting guns is really fun. But if not, if you can't get access to that, you can almost anywhere get into slingshots.
Yeah.
With Slingshots can actually be like lethal, man.
Yeah,
They're
no, I've heard,
surprisingly,
yeah.
yeah. So slingshots can be fun, and you can always do the archery usually.
Yeah, yo, bro, honestly, in the UK, if you try and do any kind of hunting, because I'm from London, right? So if
Oh
you
man,
tried to ever do any kind of hunting, even if you had a slingshot, you go probably to prison.
wow.
Because as you said, it's like a lethal weapon, or potentially lethal. So
Mm,
yeah, there's no chance that we can do that. I don't know if we have any shooting ranges. I don't think we do
mm.
because yeah, I mean the closest thing we have is probably in the countryside. You can go, you can shoot these clay pigeons. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
with
mean
the
that's
shotgun,
yeah, with the shotgun. Yeah,
that's fun. Yeah.
yeah,
Do
it's
people
fun.
like? So people maybe they hunt like pheasant and quail and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right out in the countryside though. You have to go quite far for that. But yeah, that could be something. It's usually um it's usually quite posh people who live in the countryside though
Oh
who
really?
do that. Yeah, I don't know if I could imagine myself. It's completely different to America where it's more, as you said, rednecks who are doing it. It's like the opposite end.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's funny to
Yeah.
think of. But I can
But
see
yeah,
it like a very posh Englishman and have his like cooked quail for dinner that he. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
it's exactly
America,
like that.
totally opposite. Like if you hunt in America, it's like you're a redneck. Everyone make fun
Yeah,
of
it's
you.
like yeehaw.
Let's go hunting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think hu hunting is an interesting one because I think it's one of these skills which, for the longest time, it was so important to have, and now, hardly anyone can actually hunt. You just go to the shop and buy your food, and it's such a because if the world was to go sort of like, I mean, it's gone pretty bad anyway, but if it was to continue and then it was sort of apocalyptic,
Yeah.
how's someone like me meant to get food, I don't know how to hunt, and that is quite embarrassing and quite emasculating to think about. So I might have to take your advice and start learning how
And
to
yeah,
hunt.
if you can find somebody that hunts and get them to take you, definitely go for it. You'll have a blast. It's so fun, man. The feeling of joy that you get when you hunting is takes a lot of patience, man. Usually you go out like early in the morning and you're sitting out there and sometimes it's really cold and you're sitting, waiting, nothing. And a lot of days you get nothing. And then you just go
Yeah.
home empty handed. But sometimes you get something and then you have to get the shot and then you make the good shot and then you get it. It's like you feel so happy, man. It's incredible. I remember as a kid, like just the pure joy and like hugging my dad, like, oh my God, dad, I got one. Yes, yes. You
Love
feel
that.
great. It's a very uh, primordial feeling. You can tell that
Mm,
deep inside of you, like your ancestors have been doing this for a long time. So it's really fun.
mashallah.
Yeah.
No, I love the idea of it. And I mean, yeah, just as you were saying, it's kind of that idea of you should prolong the gratification. So if you're putting work in and patience and all of that, nowadays it's all about hedonism, right? Everything that you want, you can get just like that.
Yeah.
And with hunting, I can imagine, as you said, you're sort of sitting there. It might be, I don't know, I don't know, in the weeds or in the mud or whatever it is, right? And you're
Yep.
just waiting and waiting, and I'm sure you get tired, you get bored, you get whatever, but then you finally get it, and then it's that sort of burst of adrenaline, burst of serotonin, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and you associate that long wait of hard work or patience with that burst of happiness and joy. So
Yep.
that's amazing.
Yep.
But but yeah, I want to get into sort of your background story. I know that you've probably told your story quite a
Mhm.
few times now, so I don't want to make you like tell the whole entire story. But it would be good to sort of understand where you've come from, what your upbringing was like. You sort of touched on it a bit already, and then I guess we can move into the revert story, and then we can talk about other things. So don't worry, it's not just about revert.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'll try and sum it up hit the all the exciting parts, and inshallah will be beneficial for non-Muslims and also Muslims as well, lifelong Muslims. Sometimes, you know, I was surprised by how many like lifelong Muslims they reach out and they're like, "Wow, your story is really inspiring to me." And I'm think
Yeah,
like, well, that's weird because you've been a Muslim your whole life. Why do you care about my story? I became Muslim, right? But it
yeah,
actually like renews their iman for them to see because I'll get onto my story in a second. I just want to say this first. I noticed that actually a lot of Muslims worldwide, they Islam for them maybe wasn't explained to them very well. And when they were young, it kind of seems like a lot of their parents just kind of told them like, we're Muslim because this is just the way it is. This is the way everything around us is. So it's more of like a cultural thing. It's not
mm,
even like because they asked like deep questions and came to these truths like I did and probably like you did. It's just the way things are for them. It's just like a cultural thing, just like how in America we usually have the same kind of haircuts and we drive the same kind of cars and this kind of stuff. It's just
yeah,
cultural. We don't even question it. But to see somebody else from a completely different culture come into it voluntarily, it makes you think, wow. So they became a Muslim because God is one. Like all these things that are like
yeah.
logical, right? So it is it's cool to
Allahu
see,
Akbar, yeah.
mashallah. Like it started to make sense to me why it was so fascinating for some of these lifelong Muslims to hear revert stories. So,
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
was going to say that's a really interesting point because it's something that I've noticed too. It's like I found it strange as well. I went through the same thing that you did in terms of, a Muslim who was raised as a Muslim telling me, like, "Oh, you seem so knowledgeable, this and that," and I'm thinking, I don't know anything. Yeah, like I really don't. And
Yeah,
you come to that realization that not all, obviously, there are a lot of born Muslims who are raised Muslim and they know a lot. They're very, very knowledgeable, but there are also a lot who just have no idea about anything to do with Islam, and
true.
it's a strange feeling knowing that I came into Islam around the same time as you, maybe slightly after, about 6 months ago,
Yeah,
and I know more than a lot of raised Muslims, and it's subhanallah, it's crazy. It's actually insane. But I'm not saying that to put down these Muslims. I'm saying it to, you know, it's that realization that you are also helping them, not just other reverts and not just other people who are looking into Islam. So,
yeah.
yeah, subhanallah, man. Anyway,
It's all for the sake of Allah, man. It's all for the sake of Allah. It
exactly.
it is a funny thing to realize. It's like, oh, I if you really get the bug, which I think you must have because you reverted to Islam. How long did it take you? Can I ask? Like when you first maybe got curious about it until you reverted, how long did that take?
Well, from the first sort of instance of curiosity, it was probably about 2.5 years to be fair. But when I
Oh,
really started looking into Islam, it was about 3 to 6 months, I would
there
say.
you go. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's like normal. That's like when you get the bug and you
Yeah.
can't stop researching about it. You have to know everything, and you constantly are thinking about it and getting new questions and then finding the answer. It
I
doesn't
couldn't
take that
focus
long.
at work.
Yeah. Say what?
I I couldn't focus at work because I
Same.
work from home and I'm on the computer and I have my personal computer next to me. I'm just like I couldn't stop watching videos and doing research.
Yeah.
It's
Same,
crazy.
bro. The same
Subhanallah.
thing happened to me. It was like almost problematic. I'm like, okay, no, I have to work. I start working, and I'm like, well, what about that? Like, yeah. All right, so I'll tell my
Subhanallah.
story now. Um, so yeah, growing up, I didn't really have much of a religious upbringing. Like my parents didn't really mention religion to me, but I remember really young, like hearing this idea of God, and that just made sense to me. This is like really young, like I must have been like 4 or 5, 6, yeah,
MashaAllah.
and that made sense. Like okay, God, and then God like controls everything because what am I? I'm just like a little 6 year old. I can't do anything, so there must be something controlling something, and the source of all things. I'm just like logical, even for a little kid. But then as I got a bit older, um, the only people that believed in God I could see were these people that went to church, these Christians around me. So I went to check that out, and I'm really trying to summarize this. Like I checked this out, and I'm like, this is not it's not it. This can't be it. And then so I start doing research online and I find atheism. And I'm like, okay,
Mm.
they don't believe in God. So what do they have to say? And like, I felt like they had at the time, so I'm like 12, 13 years old, right? I felt like they had pretty logical answers, at least what I thought at the time. I'm like, okay, like, yeah, there doesn't have to be a creator, even though you think there should be. And it's all just science and elements and things, the Big Bang. So that kind of gave me like a way to respond to the environment around me that was like all these Christians and stuff. And so then I could feel like, okay, I have an answer for that question. But then when I got to be about 18 years old, 17, 18, I started having experiences or realizations that I'm like, okay, science can't explain everything.
Mm.
There has to be a why, and like some things we um, you just can't answer with science. There's things that are unseen that I was experiencing, and there's no answer for it in science. So I thought,
What
okay,
sort
well,
of thing were you experiencing?
I
Is there
think I
anything in
got
particular?
into like really, I got into smoking marijuana,
Mm.
and that I think to a certain extent can open the spiritual realm. And yeah, so I don't know. I was like doing yoga and like meditation. I was getting into that, but it wasn't like people around me were doing that. It was like I was smoking marijuana, and it was just like a natural progression. I'm like started
Yeah.
doing these poses and stuff, and I learned that's yoga and meditation. And the people that do that are into this Eastern ideas, and that's when I found Buddhism, and I got deep into Buddhism. I started learning everything I could learn about Buddhism, learning from Alan Watts and Thich Nhat Hanh, who's like a Vietnamese Buddhist monk. And I'm reading their books and listening to their lectures all the time and practicing Buddhism. I'm sitting in meditation for sometimes hours a day and doing breath work. And then I started getting into more of the occult realms,
Uh,
which that gets crazy very fast. And then at the same time, I've been vegan this whole time. And then I start fasting all the time. Then I became a fruitarian, and I'm meditating, and I'm losing weight rapidly. I'm not eating for long periods of time. My family's worried about me this whole time. They think I'm going crazy. I was crazy, and they knew I was going crazy. But to me, I was the sane one, and they were crazy.
yeah, yeah. Subhanallah.
Yeah, so I went off the deep end pretty hard, man. I ended up going to Costa Rica. I joined a cult in Costa Rica of all these black people. Yeah, I was the only white person there. They were like naturists,
Mm.
and they were kind of into like the natural hygiene, like eating fruits, and but they were all about like connecting to nature. It was really nonsense when I went there. I remember I wanted to go there because they said they were fruitarian. I show up there, and the first thing they offered me was cake. I was like, "What do you?" So I came all the way here, and you guys are a bunch of frauds. You guys said you're eating
You got
only fruit,
scammed.
and it's cake. So anyway, yeah, I had my fair share of like false prophets and you know dead ends.
So,
Uh,
bro, that's you know what? Just hearing that is yeah, because I have heard it previously, but when you actually tell it to me, like right now, that is crazy. Subhanallah, that's because okay. So for anybody who hasn't experienced like some meditation practice before, it's extremely difficult to sit there for over 10 minutes, let alone hours. So yeah, that is I mean, it's beneficial for you anyway, but if you actually unpack it, what is like if you pray in Islam, that is somewhat a form of meditation anyway. You are obviously connecting with your creator and
yeah,
you're in the moment, you're not thinking about anything else out sort of in the external, right? And then you
exactly.
mentioned about you being vegan. I was vegan as well for about a year and a half, 2 years. I
Same.
dropped weight massively. I think I lost about 10 kilograms, which
Mhm.
that's 22 pounds, which is probably way less than what you dropped, by the way. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I wouldn't recommend it for anyone. And that's something that I've got noted down that I want to talk about later. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So I'm full in, like deep in on the new age stuff, and I'm vegan, and then I even got into breatharianism, bro. I was like,
What is
just
that?
you never heard of breatharianism?
bro. I don't think many people have.
You're right. You're giving me a reality check there. So breatharians believe that humans don't have to eat, and we can survive on like what they call prana. It's like an Eastern idea. They tie in the Eastern ideas of like prana. So like universal energy. They feed off universal energy, prana, and sunlight, and they don't have to eat food. And that's how humans should be. That's what they teach. And
Subhanallah.
so because I was vegan, bro, and I'm like, this is not working, right? Because you hit that point, I'm sure too, where you're like, I'm bloated and I don't feel full ever, and
Yeah.
I'm constipated, right? So I'm like, this is not working. So animal foods don't work, veganism doesn't work. So maybe these breatharians are right. We're not supposed to eat anything. Okay. And it like kind of makes sense, man, logically, because you look at all like the like Buddha fasted, Jesus, peace be upon him, fasted. So like all these religious prophets, usually they had some kind of fasting, and so I'm like, oh, then we're not supposed to eat, right? And then you like become like God. So then I was like breatharian, and that obviously, of course, didn't work. I was starving, and
How long did you last? I'm sorry, I'm so curious about this because that in
well,
itself is a death cult, right? That must be because over a
yeah,
long
people
period
die,
of
man. There,
time.
there was just
Yeah.
actually and this girl wasn't breatharian, but it's all the same, man. It's all they all kind of have the same spirit. There was a girl that just died here in Thailand, like last week, and rest in peace.
Subhanallah.
She was like fruitarian, and she was fasting all the time, thinking that she doesn't need to eat much solid food, and yeah, she died. She straight up died. She was like late 20s or early 30s, something like that. Not very
Well, was
old.
she Thai or was she
No,
Westerner?
she's foreigner. I think Russian. She might have been Russian or maybe American. Yeah, happens all the time, man. These people, like young people, they get these ideas, and alhamdulillah, I didn't kill myself doing that stuff. But dude, one time I went 3 weeks, 3 weeks. I would only eat at night for like an hour and a half, and the only thing I would eat was watermelon. Like 3 weeks, dude. I weighed like probably 50 kilos. It was ridiculous.
At least you probably had high libido because I know watermelon increases that.
Well, that's what they say. Well, I didn't have any libido, man. The whole time I was
Yeah, I'm
vegan and
sure.
fruitarian, I was completely celibate. And not to say that as like I'm showing off. It was not difficult to do that. I didn't think
Yeah.
about any sexual things at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like in Islam, the main bit of advice, if you're trying to avoid zina, is to fast, and because
It
there's
definitely
you
works.
can't one, you don't have the energy. Two, you can't like you are focusing on I'm so hungry, I'm so tired right now that I can't think about anything else. So yeah, I'm not surprised actually about the
Well, it makes sense, right?
zero
If you
to
think about it, like reproduction is kind of a secondary um, process in the body. It's like if the body is not um, sustaining or in excess, reproduction is kind of set aside because you
yeah.
need to survive before you can reproduce. So if you fast and you kind of keep your tank a little bit low, then your body's like kind of struggling a little bit, and it's like, okay, we're not sure if we have enough to reproduce, so we're gonna put that system, on standby. So it definitely works. So that is good advice to any
Watermelon
brothers
though.
that aren't married.
It was just watermelon. That's all you were having.
Dude, yeah, I went through like multiple different, like it's called mono mealing. You like pick one fruit and only eat that. Dude, there's a whole universe out there of this kind of stuff. It's crazy.
Subhanallah, bro. Well, I'm glad you look very healthy now. So
Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Well, so I was doing that, and then I started eating meat again because I realized, okay, I can't starve myself to death. That doesn't work. So I must meat must be okay to eat. So I started eating meat again and drinking milk, and that's when I started to like, I don't know. That's a new chapter for me because then I started like, I think, getting some testosterone, and then I'm like, I want to learn how to fight, and so I started learning how to fight, um, because why? Like, I don't know. It's just, I think it's a question that all men have inside, is like, how would I do, like, if it really just kicked off right now, like, could I take that guy, or like would that guy smash? You know what I mean? We all
yeah,
think about this,
hundred
and
percent.
so I don't know. I was always athletic growing up, but I never wrestled. I played football. I played baseball. I ran track. So I know I'm athletic, but like, could I fight? I don't know. I have no idea. So let me just go try and like learn how to punch and kick maybe, and then I don't see where that takes me. I had no intention really. Just I wanted to see how I did, and so I
So
went
you
to learn.
started at what age?
This must have been when I was 20, 21, I guess, about 21 or 22.
That's not even that long ago, really. It's just a few
No,
years
it
ago.
was like 3, 4 years ago. Yeah, yeah, and yeah. So I'm in Thailand. I live in Thailand, and I was in Thailand at the time. So I thought, well, they have Muay Thai here, which I didn't even know that when I came to Thailand. But I was at the gym one time lifting weights, and I saw these guys with these pads, these big pads, and they were kicking the pads so hard. And I remember they made this sound, ah! And then oh, you hear the clap, ah! Yeah. And I was like, what is that sound? What are they doing? It sounds like a demon or a gremlin or something. And so I asked them like, what is that? And they're like, this is Muay Thai. And I was like, can I try that? And they were like, yeah, they were welcome. And I ended up not doing it, I think for one reason or another for a while. And then I think I was scared. I was honestly
Yeah.
scared to try it. And I want to say that anybody, if you're afraid to try a martial art or to go to the gym, just do it. Don't be scared, because what you'll find is that anybody that's actually good at the martial art, or anybody that's knowledgeable in a gym, they're not going to judge you at all, because
Mm,
everyone starts there. Everyone starts there. It's not scary once you actually go in. Everyone's going to be like welcoming, and it's going to be a fun time. I can't of course speak for every single gym, but in general, you're gonna have a good time your first time. So just go try, and that's what I did. I walked into the Muay Thai gym, and I remember being really scared. But then the first time I ever like cracked the pads, I remember that the Thai trainer, like, he was trying to intimidate me. He's like, take off your shirt, because I was wearing a shirt. He's like, take off your shirt, and so I took off my shirt. He's like, yeah, okay, strong. And then he like told me to punch and knee and kick. And I remember starting to kind of feel the movements and the power and like the force of hitting the pad. And I was like, this is really fun. I like
yeah.
this. And so I got into it pretty hard. I started training like twice a week, and I started training like 3 times a week. Before I knew it, I'm training twice a day, and then I'm having my first fight, and then I had another fight, and then I had another fight, and I had another fight. Yeah, I ended up fighting.
MashaAllah.
I ended up fighting 7 times total, and 3 of those fights were on. You can, like, here in Thailand, there's like different levels. Like, you start out fighting at just like local shows, or like even lower, it'd be like a temple show. Like, they have these fights at temples, and like
Mm,
if you fight, you get like $1. Like, literally, you like, kids get like $1 to fight, and they'll just match up like two random. They'll kind of size them up. Okay, they're about the same weight, and feel their muscles. Like, okay, yeah, about the same, and then just let them go fight and give them $1 each, and that's it.
yeah.
So you kind of start there.
I'm not even surprised by that, because if you look at all the pros, like you always hear their stories, like they've had two, three, four, 500 fights,
Yeah,
and then they go pro, and it's like they're literally little kids smashing each other.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is
It's
potential
brutal.
brain damage, but but I
Well, the
mean,
thing
this is
is,
how you get really
actually,
good.
I've seen like really little kids fight, and at first it's like, that's horrible. They shouldn't be fighting. They're too small. But when you think about it, like, little kids also can't punch that hard.
Yeah, that is true.
So it like kind of evens out. Of course, if you put a little kid against a teenager, they're going to get CTE for sure. They're
Yeah,
going to be irreversible damage. But it's a little kid against a little kid. They like size them up, and then they're in there and they're like punching each other in the face, but they don't punch hard. So I think they
yeah,
end up being fine. People that guys that I know that are Thai that have had 200 plus fights, they're all there. They're okay. I can't say that. Like, if you look at Nate Diaz, look at Mike Tyson, these kind of famous fighters, their speech is not very good. It's
yeah.
not very good. And I'll say, I think I myself got more brain damage playing American football than I did doing Muay Thai, for sure.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah, I got my bell rang so many times in American football, to the point where I'm like, I can't see anything right now, and all I hear is ringing. Like, all the time, man, all the time. But in Muay Thai, that did happen. That did happen, but that was in fights. It was never in training, and so it was just like a every so often kind of thing. And usually, in a Muay Thai fight, if that happens, the fight's over, and then you go recover.
yeah.
You take a few weeks off, and hopefully you learned your lesson. But yeah, American football is rough, man. That stuff happens all the time. Um, so yeah, I started fighting, and um, as far as like if I would recommend a Muslim to to practice Muay Thai, or anyone to practice Muay Thai, um, I think better go for wrestling. Honestly,
Really
yeah, definitely. If you
interesting.
can, like, for a couple of reasons, like, first, for Islamic reasons, there is the hadith, right?
Sunnah as well.
When, well, yeah, wrestling is sunnah, but there's also hadith. Um, when you fight, don't strike the face.
Yep.
Don't strike the face. Okay, if you fight Muay Thai, there's face striking going on. It's less than Western boxing. It is less than Western boxing, and technically, you could win a Muay Thai fight without striking the face. It wouldn't be that easy, but actually, like, Thais don't hit the face that much because they also, in their culture, their Buddhist culture, which personally I believe Buddha was likely a prophet of Allah. I will say that on record. There's even been notable Islamic scholars that have came to this same conclusion. You see all these similarities in Thai culture and Buddhist culture and Islamic
Mm.
culture, like that. They don't like to hit each other in the face because it's disrespectful. Um, there's a lot of others, like cleanliness and this kind of stuff. But yeah, so Thais don't really hit in the face that much. But back to the main point, um, I wouldn't recommend it because, of course, it's not really Islamic hitting the face as well. Um, um, the functionality, the usefulness of it in a real fight, I I'm I will say, I know if I get in a fight with a good wrestler, and it's just like bar rules or whatever, he's gonna smash me. Like,
Yeah.
unless I like get lucky and I like catch him with a knee on his way in, like, of course I could outbox him. But when you're in a real fight, I'm gonna like throw a hook, and yeah, if I landed, he might, take some damage. But he's gonna just take the shot, and then he's gonna pick me up. He's gonna suplex me, and then I'm probably gonna be
Game
KO'd on the
over.
scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, wrestling is a superior martial arts 9 times out of 10 than kickboxing or boxing, karate, you name it, even
It,
jujitsu. Even
is,
jujitsu, I'll
is,
say. Go ahead.
and I was going to say, is that a controversial take, or do you think everyone's sort of in
No, dude,
agreement?
the martial arts world is like is a crazy place. You get all these people that think they know everything, and like
Yeah.
they all opinionated and stuff. But unless you've like actually been in the ring or have experience with it, like, which most people don't, the people that talk the most are the people that
Yeah.
have no experience.
Always.
Like, it would be easier for me to say, and of course I want to say, like, oh, I'm really good at Muay Thai, so I could smash anyone. But it's not true, man. It's really not true when you think about it. Like, as soon as I throw a kick, a wrestler's going to grab my leg, he's going to take me down, and then he's just going to dance over my body. Like, he can manipulate me however he wants to. I'm pretty
Yeah.
good. I'm okay on the ground, but somebody that's like well trained at wrestling or jujitsu too, it's it's game over, man. So if that's all you have available, Muay Thai training is fun, and it definitely, I think it benefited me, like my confidence. It definitely calmed me down because you have to learn how to be calm in Muay Thai when you're getting punched and kicked. You can't, like, oh my god, like, turn your back
Yeah.
and run away. You have to just kind of weather the storm and then fire back strategically. So it teaches you how to be calm. Um, and it,
I experienced the same thing in boxing. Like at first, when I started boxing, I used to just sort of like freeze up and panic. And the
yeah,
thing is, you just need to, as you said, weather the storm and just kind of get used to being hit, which sounds
yeah,
strange. But the thing is, if you have your guard up and you can sort of see the punches coming, you're sort of blocking them,
it's not that
you're
bad.
not going to get knocked out. You're not going
Yeah,
to get knocked out from just that. Obviously, if you're going to sort of land a punch and then you get caught, that's a different story. But
yeah.
yeah, sorry, go on.
Um, so yeah, I think Muay Thai was good for me, and it is important. I will say it is important for especially young men and all men to have some kind of practice that's martial, a martial art practice. I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and not everyone has it available, so you have to do what you can with what you have. And so I mean, if you have nothing, then go pick up heavy rocks and lift them over your head and stuff. Like, do something that's like a little bit dangerous and might scuff you up a little bit, and it teaches you how to have grit and that's really
Mm,
important as a man. You have to you have to have grit to protect your family and
100%.
provide, and like just being able to just kind of get hit and bumped up and scraped up and be like, oh, okay, and keep
I've
going.
got a yeah, exactly. I've got a question. How about all of these feminists who say, "Oh, but that's toxic," you know? You should
Well,
any message to them?
they're the probability is that they are going to never get married and have kids, and when they're about 40 years old or 45 years old, they're going to realize it was a big mistake. They're lonely and they're going to have massive life regrets. That's usually what happens. So those
Yeah,
women aren't to be listened to. They're lost, and any sane woman would happily marry a man that it has a firm foundation in Islam and practices these kind of martial arts. Man, it's very makes for a good husband, I think.
I
Yeah.
think so too, bro. I don't think you wrapped up the story on your revert sort of story thing.
I sure didn't. I'm all over the place. Sorry.
No, no, it's cool, man. It's cool.
Yeah. So I was fighting Muay Thai. So as I was fighting Muay Thai, I'm starting to get into like I started looking for around this time. I started looking for um, like rhythm and structure in my life. That's the word. I'm looking for structure. And so I had the martial arts stuff going on and that was cool, but I'm like, okay, but like what's deeper? What's the truth?
Mm,
And around this time I found Orthodox Christianity on the internet. And this was really interesting to me. It was unique because I saw this Christianity that I grew up with, but Orthodox Christianity is completely different. It's not completely different, but it's very different. And I never heard of it before. It's like, oh, so Orthodox Christianity is like they kind of sell it as the original Christianity
yeah.
before the Great Schism, and uh, it seemed interesting to me. It seemed interesting because they seemed to like actually follow their rules, and they were a bit more strict, and they had more of a system. And instead of like what I saw in America, which was all over the place, man. You're up there with electric guitars and pianos and drums, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, you know,
Is that so in America? So I grew up as a Christian. I went to an evangelical church, kind of like that slash gospel church, where it was exactly how you described it. You know, they had a guitar, they had drums on stage. It was crazy,
crazy.
subhanallah. But yeah, no, as you said, the Orthodox it's a lot more. I mean, it's not like Islam, but it's a lot more practicing in terms of they follow the book, right? You know,
Hmm.
all of this LGTV sort of stuff in evangelical churches, they might even have a gay priest or whatever. But then
Yeah,
in the Orthodox churches, you would never have that.
yeah. They're much more traditional. They're much more
Yeah.
traditional there. I just saw a story from my hometown just yesterday where there was a Catholic school, and the principal of the Catholic school decided that there should be no gay books in the library. So he banned like all the
MashaAllah.
LGBT books, right? And then one of the parents complained, so they kicked their son out, kicked him out, done out. And my hometown's newspaper posted this story on Instagram, and everyone in the comments is like, "Oh, well, good for her. Like, she dodged a bullet. Like, she
Mhm.
shouldn't have her kid in that school anyway." I'm like, "It's a Catholic school. It's a Christian school." So what did I do? I posted the there's some I think it's in Leviticus, and it says like a man that sleeps with another man shall surely be put to death. Right? Like it's right in your own book. Like,
Exactly.
what are you doing? Like, and it's he didn't even say that gays should be put to death. He just said we shouldn't have gay books in our children's library. And then people are like, "Oh, that's so bad." Man, y'all are confused.
Bro, like you should not have any books on sexuality in a children's library. It doesn't matter
Exactly.
about like, uh, religious or not, even if it's just a normal library. Why is there books about sexuality in the children's section, you know?
100% agree. It's logical, and there's the the adhan. Should we pause?
I think we're still in the sort of revert story. I kind of I like how it's going so far, bro. Honestly, it's nice to
Mhm.
sort of branch out into different areas, and then we can
Yeah.
come back to the revert story. So
Yeah. Otherwise, if I just tell my story, then we forget everything, and so it's okay. We're going into in depth on some aspects. So where was I? I was oh yeah. No, I just found Orthodox Christianity.
yeah,
I just found Orthodox Christianity. So I was a catechumen, which means like you start learning about the faith, and so I'm speaking with this Ukrainian priest about the faith, and to be honest, like I don't know, I didn't like dissect it. I didn't analyze it heavily because I was young, man. I was like 20, 22 or 23,
mm,
and I just got all this testosterone all of a sudden, and I was having to deal with like women all of a sudden, and I'm like, I was having all these questions, and I just needed guidance. I just needed something. I knew this new age stuff that I was doing before was like nonsense. I well, I was smart enough to recognize that, so I'm like, okay, let's just. This seems traditional. This seems beneficial for me. So just give it to me. Like I'm not gonna
yeah,
ask a ton of questions. You know what I mean? This seems good. It seemed like a good system. And it helped me a lot, man. It helped me a lot. Whoa, I dodged so many bullets like sticking to that tradition, because you can only imagine I'm that age in Thailand, and I start like actually feeling like a man,
mm,
and dealing with women, and everything. In Thailand, dude. In Thailand is like Disney World for adults, man. You can get anything you want in Thailand. It can go bad very easily, man. There's so many young men that go to Thailand, and they screw their life completely permanently messed up.
What in terms of money, or in terms of what, or just hedonism?
It's women, it's drugs, it's
Yeah,
bro. You can get access to anything you want here, and
oh, I bet.
in crazy amounts for not very much money.
Mm.
So yeah, you can just imagine how easily you can screw your life up here. You have a kid with the wrong woman or anything like this. You get into drugs or
Yeah, thinking about it now, because obviously I was aware of all of this, drugs and obviously alcohol, women, whatever
yeah, that too,
in
alcohol.
in in Thailand. But you mentioned you found Orthodox Christianity, what, in Thailand?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
how
so
crazy.
I would have never guessed.
Me either, man. Yeah.
From a Ukrainian as well.
So I found it online,
Oh,
and then I'm like, I was in this city called Chiang Mai, Thailand, which is like one of the bigger cities in the north of Thailand, or I
yeah,
guess the biggest, but it's still like not that big. And so I thought, there's no way I'm going to find an Orthodox Christian church in this city in the north of Thailand. But subhanallah, there was one.
yeah,
And so I went there, and yeah, I met this Ukrainian priest, and he kind of helped me. But there was a quite a large language barrier. But like I said, I wasn't like there to like. It seemed it seemed like it was good for me. I don't know. I just kind of fell into it. I'm like, yeah, give it to me. I submitted to the tradition of Orthodox Christianity, because I
yeah. It's like it's
yeah
literally like out of all the options that you had, that seemed like the best one, right? Even though
yeah.
it may not have been the correct one, it was the better of all of the choices.
It's like when you take a test and you don't know what the right answer is, but so you just tick off all the ones you know are wrong, and then it's like,
Yeah,
okay, well, I guess that's the one, right? That's
yeah.
how I felt at the time, and I hadn't looked into Islam, and I probably should have mentioned this sooner, but I had never heard of Islam. Really, I'd never learned anything about Islam other than I saw it on the TV, and they were terrorists and they had guns, and that's it.
Yeah.
I knew nothing else. I don't know if they believe in God. I didn't really know if it's a religion. Is it an Abrahamic religion? I knew nothing about Islam. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like people in the middle of America, they literally know nothing about it. It's really crazy.
Yeah, all the well, it's similar in the UK. We seem to be a bit more sort of knowledgeable in Islam just because there are quite a lot of Muslims here, to be fair,
Right.
especially in the big cities. But if all that you're fed is all of this sort of propaganda, terrorists, extremists, Al Qaeda, ISIS, all of this, I might have to
Yeah.
blur those words out. But but if that's all that you're fed, of course that's sort of the impression that you're going to have, right? And you
Right.
don't know any Muslims as well, so
Right. There's none. There was none. Like
yeah.
there was in my graduating class of about 115 people, there was like one Asian and like two black kids. The rest white Christians, all of them.
Very redneck
very,
area then.
very
Must,
non-diverse.
must have been.
Yeah. So, so yeah, I never heard about Islam. So I thought, okay, everything else didn't work. So this must be it, I guess. so, so that lasted for like 2 years, man. I went to church every Sunday, but like of course, towards the end, I started questioning it. And like, for example, in Orthodox Christianity, similar to Catholicism, it kind of all leads up to the communion, at least like how you practice in real life, right? It
Yeah.
all leads to the communion. So you in Orthodox Christianity, like you do fasting um, during the week, and you also what's the word? Confess to the
Yeah.
priest. So I tell the priest everything that I've sinned, all my sins, um, within the past week or since the last time I confessed, in order that I can take communion. And what is communion? Communion is, as I would watch, is the altar boy behind the closed doors when they're doing the liturgy on Sunday morning. Behind the closed doors, they have this little golden chalice, and I would watch. They would pour some wine into the chalice, and then they would cut some bread in a very specific way and do all these rituals and prayers. Put the bread in there, and then eventually they would bring it out, and everyone would take a spoonful. And what is that? It is literally, as the Orthodox Christians believe, literally the body and blood of Christ. What is
Yeah.
Christ? God. So what are you doing? You're eating the body and the blood of God. And so I'm like, okay, so it's all leading up to that. And I'm like asking myself, do I really believe that? Because I noticed as I was doing it, I feel like I'm kidding myself. I don't really
Mm.
believe that. Like I like this as a system in my life, but do I really believe that I'm eating the body and the blood of Christ? No, I don't. And this was like actually
Subhanallah.
kind of heartbreaking for me to realize this. So I'm like, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Like I can't have my cake and eat it too. Like this is the
Yeah.
whole thing is about this. So if I don't believe this, the house of cards completely crumbles. So then I'm
Yeah.
lost again. Dang it! Now I don't know what I'm doing again. So I left the church, and then about another 2 years of my life, I was just I knew there was God, and I knew there had to be objective right and wrong, because if not, then life is just pointless. And I don't that can't be true. That's just meaningless. And then I'm gonna fall off into some dark hole and ruin my life if
Mm.
I fall into that, which was again living in Thailand. That's not hard to do. Like there's a little devil on my shoulder telling me, Daniel, nothing matters. Do whatever you want.
Bro, honestly, that yeah, 100 because I've been through that as well. It's so
Yeah,
relatable, and I think that's what's happening around the world, right? As a lot of these sort of Eastern countries and Middle Eastern countries are adopting more Western thinking.
yeah.
That's kind of what's happening, and you see the downfall of a lot of societies, and it's through that nihilistic, almost nihilistic sort of thinking of this is it. You know,
It's
let's
pure
just have
nihilism.
as much fun as possible.
Yeah, it's not almost nihilistic. It is actually nihilism.
Yeah.
Like, um, that's what's at the core of the whole rainbow thing.
Yes.
It's literally that because they believe that because it feels good, it is good, and
100%. Yeah.
nothing else matters. Whereas in Islam, just because something feels good doesn't mean it is good. There's a potent verse in the Quran, right? You might like something that is bad for you, and something that's good for you you might not like. Paraphrasing, of course, it's English, but
Allahu
um,
Akbar.
yeah, and so it's a dualistic way to look at it. It's an either or. It's binary. It's either you think that what feels good is good, or you think perhaps that something else could be true. And that's ultimately what you have to face is this question: should I just follow what I want, or should I submit to something else?
Mm.
And yeah, it was not the easiest choice, but at the same time, it was the easiest choice. I'm like, oh, that just makes sense. But yeah, for that period of my life after I left Orthodox Christianity, I was kind of teeter tottering here, where I'm like, okay, I think I know what the right thing to do is, but I don't have any like foundational system to tell me that, so I can really just rationalize whatever I want. So I was kind of going in and out of like what I thought was right, and then just like rationalizing some completely degenerate action. and then being like, oh, that's kind of messing up my life. But what if it's not messing up my life? What if, you know what I mean? You can rationalize
Yeah.
anything you want, man. So
Everything you're saying is so relatable, honestly. And I think a lot of reverts go through that phase in their life where it could just literally be 6 months, but it could be 10 years. In my case, it was like 12 years of pure hedonism and doing crazy
yeah,
stuff. But
well,
yeah,
it's a constant battle that even like, just because now we're Muslims, that doesn't just like go away. Like,
yeah,
even though
exactly.
you know logically that you should follow um, your dean, is not always so easy, man. It's not so easy. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've experienced myself, like, as a new revert, it was like so easy, bro. I was like on cloud nine, just like flowing. And then, you start the puppy dog phase kind of wears off. And then
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I like have to actually put effort into this. Like, I have to like pay attention to what I'm saying in my prayer, and I need to do dhikr, and I need to have taqwa. I need to like you have to water your garden, man. You have to water your grass, water your seeds,
yeah,
because if you don't, that like puppy dog phase that I mentioned of being a new revert, it wears out. And then you're like start rationalizing stuff again. And you think, well, that guy, I know that guy's a Muslim, and he does that. So it must be fine. You know what I mean? You start
right.
having these kind of rationalizations. So you have to be careful. But ultimately, yeah, that's the battle we all face is,
Yeah,
do we turn down our desires or not? Hmm.
yeah, it's such an interesting thing. And on the point of that the honeymoon period, or yeah, that
Yeah.
sort of that first, I would say about maybe 2-3 months. I would say it probably lasts about that time. Where obviously it's different for everyone. Where, as you said, you're on cloud nine, everything's amazing. You're getting so much fulfillment and enjoyment and pleasure from praying salah, right? It's
Yep.
so new to you, and then you suddenly hit a couple of prayers where you're like, oh man, like it doesn't feel as good as it used to. And
Yeah.
it gets to a point where sometimes you're like, I don't want to say it's a hassle, but it's almost like, oh, I have to go do this. And it's that change in thinking where if you rely on your prayer feeling good, I'm doing this for me, that's the wrong thing to do because you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for the sake of Allah, obviously. And so for me, that realization was everything because I started feeling a bit. I was just feeling down about praying and about Islam in general, probably about 2 or 3 months ago. And then I came to that realization, and ever since then, praying isn't for me, as I mentioned, it's for Allah. So that switch in perspective and mindset was very, very important. And I think a lot of reverts will go through that, and as long as they realize that, then they should be good, really.
Yeah, you are doing it for the sake of Allah, but I wish I could remember. There's all these things I can't remember, like the source. But I think there may be. Yeah, I could be wrong. I think there may be a verse in the Quran or a hadith that tells us that also prayer is for us. It's also for us.
Yeah,
Like, Allah doesn't need your prayer. Allah
yeah.
is the everlasting, all sustaining. Right? He doesn't need your prayer. What are you? You're nothing, bro. You are nothing to Allah. You're literally you're
Islam
literally
doesn't
nothing.
need you. Yeah.
We're Allahu Akbar. Like, we're tiny little. It's like uh, a worm on the side of the road, paying respect to you. Like, you don't care. You smash the worm. It's like nothing, right? So the prayer is for the sake of Allah, but it's also for you. It's also for you. But the difference is, are you just going through the motions,
Mm,
or are you paying attention to what you're actually
yeah.
saying in the prayer? And if you actually pay attention to just the Fatiha alone, it's powerful, man. It's really powerful, and it puts you in your correct place as a human, where you should be. You know what I mean? So we have to nurture our salah, and I'm glad that I got really good advice early on from Muslims. I'm
Mm,
like, dude, like, I was looking at it from like a philosophical. I was coming in at like from a philosophical point of view, like wanting all this knowledge and stuff. And my Muslim friends were like, "Bro, pray. Like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, all that's cool. You got to pray first." I wasn't
yeah.
praying at the time when I'm asking all these like deep questions about Islam. You have to pray, bro. Like, that's, if you don't pray, everything else is nonsense. Like, you have nothing if you don't pray. And so luckily, yeah, Alhamdulillah, I received good advice early on. So yeah, I guess we could say to any reverts or any Muslims that are struggling, nurture your salah. Pay attention when you pray, and do your
100%.
prayers. Also, for those that aren't doing their prayers, do your prayers, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's so fundamental, isn't it? Is well,
Yeah,
after obviously Shahada, it's like you have to do your 5 daily prayers. Like, it's fard, you have to. So
you got to.
yeah, you have to.
I got a neighbor, so I live in like a Muslim neighborhood. My neighbor is this older
Inshallah.
woman, and she was talking to me one morning, and she was saying how happy she was to see that Muslims moved in next to her,
Mm.
and she's like, that house has to have Muslims in it. It has to. Right across from the masjid, it has to have Muslims.
Yeah.
And we were talking about Islam, how I found Islam, and my wife, and etc. And then she goes, "Do you pray?" She like this how like we were about to end the conversation, and she's like, "Do you pray, right?" I was like, "Yes." She, mashallah. She was so relieved. It was like this like bullshit check. Like, okay, but do you pray? Like,
Yeah.
there are people that don't pray, man. And like, if you don't pray, then like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, there's a hadith. I'm actually going to quickly find it. I posted it on my YouTube community section earlier. It's something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's something along the lines of, sorry, if oh no, it was yesterday actually. Yeah, so essentially, if you abandon prayer, you're essentially abandoning Islam. So
right?
it's so core to Islam. It's the way that you communicate with Allah. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's essential. I think a lot of I don't know about you. I'm not going to bait them out. I'm not going to say their names or whatever. But I've grown up with Muslims who either don't pray or miss prayers, and they're like, as you mentioned, it's part of their culture rather than the actual religion itself. And
yeah,
for reverts coming into Islam, it's like it makes me feel sick, like thinking about missing a prayer because
yeah.
we we understand how important it is because
Right.
we've done the research and all that. But yeah, subhanallah, like you can't be missing prayers.
Cannot. What are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess.
Bro, sorry, I got a quick question. Just
Go
because
ahead.
on the topic of Thailand and Muslims,
Yeah, sure.
um, how many Muslims are there in Thailand in terms of like percentage, or are there certain areas? You mentioned you live in a Muslim neighborhood.
I think it's less than. I can't remember, bro. It's less than 5%. I can't remember if it's one
Oh, okay.
percent or close to 5%, but it's something like that. It's between 1% and 5%. I can say that. Um, so it's not very many, but it's mostly geographic. So like Malaysia and Thailand have a mutual border. They share a
Yeah,
border in the south of Thailand, and of course Malaysia is a Muslim country, and so the south of Thailand is quite Islamic. And like actually, um, northern Malaysia and southern Thailand is like the second Mecca, dude. Like the Muslims are down there they're really about it, man. They got like tons of schools, a lot of really learned people.
mm,
Mashallah, it's like it's actually surprising. I didn't know that.
mashallah.
Like I lived in Thailand for like 5 years, and then I learned like, oh, there's like a lot of dedicated Muslims down there.
Yeah,
And so
in that part of Southeast Asia where you have obviously the southern bit of Thailand, then you have the northern part of Malaysia, you have Indonesia and south of Philippines as well. That area is very, very, very Islamic. So yeah,
they're
I
really
need to
about it.
visit that area.
Highly recommend, man.
Yeah.
It's a the Muslims here. How to say this politely? They have very good manners down here. Specifically down here, they have very good manners. Their akhlaq is
Yeah.
very good. The Indonesians, the Malaysians, the Southern Thais, man, they're so kind. They're very 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 kind. And yeah, I'll just say when I went to Mecca and Medina, it made me realize how blessed I was to find Islam in the south of Thailand, because I saw a very good example. Wow,
Yeah.
they're very very kind. They're super kind. Can't say that about
Mashallah.
all Muslim countries. I
Yeah,
won't
of course.
I won't name names. Anyway, so yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, no, 100%, bro. I guess, yeah, let's because I want to talk about some other stuff, but let's wrap up the revert story and then we can
Sure.
sort of touch on a couple of other
Yeah,
aspects.
it's pretty
Yeah,
much over.
oh, okay, yeah,
The reason is over. Almost at the,
yeah,
we're almost finished with it. Um, so yeah, I was lost, left Orthodox Christianity. I was lost, And I saw Bobby's perspective, who was a friend of mine at the time, still
mashallah.
is, um, posting videos about Islam, and I thought that is really weird. Why is he learning about Islam? But then I asked myself, why is that weird? Why do I think it's weird? It's just conditioning that I've accepted that Islam is like nonsense. And
Mm,
so why don't I do myself a favor and have the respect to like learn about it, even if it is nonsense? Why is it nonsense? I don't even know. So I started learning about it, and yeah, that was it. The rest is history. It was like 4 or 5 months. I was taking
mashallah.
shahada. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Mashallah, bro. I want to touch on oh man, there's some things I want to talk about. We don't have a whole bunch of time, but I'm going to try and get through a lot of this. So from what I've seen from your videos, there's a lot of self improvement. Well, there was. I mean, obviously, the whole sort of process of you becoming, a revert Muslim, that is self improvement in itself, I would say. But you used to make a lot of videos on, sort of fat loss and sort of different experiences that you've had, some diets you've tried, which is really interesting. There was one video that I came across, which was about a sort of traffic incident where it could have gone real bad, but the fact that you were the type of guy who was confident, you were sort of you kept your composure,
Yeah.
you managed to navigate around that. So I mean, I'm sure anybody listening to this hasn't heard that story because I think it only had like 1,000 views or so.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
mean, it'd be
yeah.
great
So
to hear
that video was titled "Road Raged Thai Man Pulls a Knife Out on Me." I think it was.
that.
There's
Most
no
clickbait.
clickbait. That's like literally what happened. Like I remember I was driving. I was in the car, and then I changed lanes, and then the guy comes up behind me, really close to me, like right next to me, and then okay, like I'm not a saint. I'm not a saint in this story. Like I definitely
Yeah.
did a lot of things wrong, and so I like brake checked this guy. You know what I mean? Which I shouldn't have done. I shouldn't have done that. I was stupid. And
Yeah,
then he
yeah.
gets all mad and he pulls up. And then, for me, I'm just like, whatever. You're too close to me. Like, screw off. I'm gonna brake check you. But then he gets mad, so he pulls up next to me, and then he starts screaming at me, which I'm like, this guy's like completely off his, lost his marbles. You know what I mean? What are you
Yeah.
doing? and um, and he gets in front of me and tells me to pull over, and he's like blocking my way. And I'm like, yeah, okay, we can pull over. I'm thinking in my mind, like, this older Thai guy wants to box me or something, and I'm gonna completely obliterate him and then go along my day, and it's gonna be funny. Um, but when I got out of the car, he got out of the car also with a knife and is pointing the knife right at
SubhanAllah.
me. And this is my thinking at the time. No, it all happened really fast, but my thinking was, okay, I know if you really want to stab someone, you're not going to show them the knife. You're going to get into a fist fight with them with a concealed knife, and then you're going to pull it out, and then you're going to stab them. That's like the
Mm.
logical way if you really want to stab someone. It's very easy, actually. You taunt them into a fist fight, and then when they get engaged, you pull out a knife and then you stab them. So
Scary
I thought,
thinking about it.
dude, bro, looking back at this, I was not. This was not very smart. I didn't do the smartest thing. The smartest thing would have been not to brake check this guy in the first place. That was an act
Yeah.
of pride and arrogance, and I should have just ignored that guy and just.
Mm.
I could have died, dude. I could have died. Like,
SubhanAllah, bro.
like, my advice now to anyone, if you ever, even if you're like, oh, dude, this guy like is bluffing, and I would smash him. If someone has a knife, it's very easy for you to die. It's very easy to go. There's a YouTube video. Go watch YouTube video. It's like martial artists versus guy with a knife. You'll find it. They put like 8 martial artists, like guys that do either kickboxing or MMA or
Yeah.
both, against a guy with a knife in a kind of simulated environment. They all died technically, not literally, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
theoretically, they would all be dead if that was a real incident. And these are guys that are trained just versus a normal guy with a knife. They all died, bro. It's easy to just get just a couple, boop, 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 like just like 4 shots
And
around your ribs.
especially if it's concealed as well. Like if you don't know it's there as well.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah. That's,
Yeah. So, but in this one instance, I called the guy's bluff, and I said, okay, come stab me. Basically, like I taunted him, like, you're not going to do it. Like, go get back in your car and drive off. You're not going to stab me. So I
yeah.
taunted him. because I knew, and I really knew this from dealing with dogs. Actually,
Mm.
I have like 4 or 5 times in my childhood where I got bit by dogs that drew blood, like serious encounters with dogs, and it was like traumatizing to me always. That I was like, I love dogs, but I just
Yeah.
had a few times where we had a misunderstanding and they ended up biting me, and they always kind of freaked me out, and I was always kind of uncomfortable around dogs. And then I learned if if you show the dog that you're not afraid to fight, 99% of the time they stop, even if they're pretty sure that they're gonna win the fight. It's like not worth it for them. It's like, oh yeah, but then I'm gonna like maybe get injured or something like that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's not worth it. And then they won't. But if you show that I'm not willing to fight at all, I'm a sitting duck. I'm a decoy. I'm a what do you call that? Squeaky toy. I'm like a squeaky toy. They can just bite me and throw me around, and I'm just
Yeah.
gonna scream. Then they're all about it. They're of course they're gonna jump right on it because there's no risk. There's no
Mm.
risk involved. But as soon as you throw that risk in, like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna try to hurt you. Nah, most of the time they're good. Even like a badass dog. Maybe if it's not like a pit bull or a Rottweiler or something like that,
Yeah.
then you're just screwed. But most dogs, they'll back down. So I thought this guy, he's got this knife pulled out. That's already like warning, or that's already like a sign that he's bluffing. He's pulled the knife out already, and then I'm just looking at him. I'm like, he ain't really gonna do it. So I said, "Come on, do it, yeah, do it." And it just completely killed him, man. He's just like I saw him just like go limp. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm not really gonna stab this kid." He just called my bluff, and I'm not gonna stab him. So he kind of limped, like wallered back to his car. I got in his car and drove away. That was it.
Yeah, I watched the video and almost instantly you see his hand drop. Like
Yeah,
he had the knife in his hand just dropped, and I was just like, "Wow, subhanallah!" Like you really called his bluff. Because the thing is, I'm from London. It's like the stabbing capital of the world, and
yeah,
so if you tried that here, I don't know if it would end up the same. But
yeah,
at the same time, it's like I would like to say it's amazing advice, and I think it is, but I wouldn't recommend anybody get into that situation
yeah.
and then do that. So
No, dude, if someone's
yeah,
got a knife pulled out on you, it's like it's life or death right there. So you have
yeah,
to like be very smart. But in that case, it worked out. It worked out for me. Alhamdulillah, that I
alhamdulillah.
just called his bluff and it kind of defeated him because like I said, with the dog, it's like if there's risk involved, all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe because he's thinking also, what if that guy like does get the knife turned around and then I end up dead? You know what I mean? Like it's possible. He's ready to fight. He's ready for it. So anything could happen. So, but if I were to like, uh, be like, dude, please don't stab me. Stick in the head and just like just attack me because he's like this guy's just peeing his pants basically.
Yeah.
He's a sitting target. Yeah,
Yeah, I think yeah, that whole point about sort of confidence and almost sticking your chest out and being like, "Come on, then," is that works in a lot of aspects of life. It's like even walking down the street at night. If you have a confident walk about you, you never get picked on, honestly. But if you're sort of like, shoulders hunched forward, sort of look like you're avoiding trouble, those are the ones who always get picked on.
it's
I have
true,
a
man.
question on this topic actually because I found it quite interesting. You mentioned that either your wife or your girlfriend was in the car at the time. Do you think
Yeah,
that played a role in how you acted, or
yeah,
it sort
perhaps.
of had
Yeah,
an effect?
perhaps. I mean, yeah, man, like kind of protective, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. It was all like in cases like that, you're not really like thinking like consciously. It's
Mm,
just kind of everything is like instinctual. So yeah, it could have like because man, if I would have died, then he could have like killed her or something. So I guess
yeah.
I was trying my best. Yeah, yeah. That's a powerful feeling, man. When you throw women into things, it's just like you almost never see fights between men if there's not a woman involved. It's like there's a lot less. But as soon as you get women involved, then it's like guys just get stupid and want to fight all the time.
Yeah, there's wars have been started over women, so it's
There you go.
they're a very powerful force, probably the most powerful force. Well,
Yeah.
other than obviously Allah, but had to mention that. I guess I'd be interested, as I mentioned, we sort of got about maybe 10, 15 minutes. I want to touch on um, masculinity because obviously self-improvement sort of ties in with that. And these are sort of areas that we seem to be interested in. A lot of your older videos, as I mentioned, are really centered around self-improvement. What is your opinion on the current state of masculinity? from what you can see? Because I know you live in Thailand. I don't know if it's any different there, but you are from the West, so
Um, what I see, like young men falling into, and what I see being pushed online, and I don't really see this in my when I walk outside. I don't really see this. I live in a Muslim neighborhood, but and Thai people are actually like quite conservative. Actually, like even the Buddhists are like pretty conservative, and they're
mm,
not. They do have degeneracy, of course, but it's kind of like hidden in corners and stuff. Like if you're not looking for it, you won't see it. Um, Whereas in the West, it's like kind of more in the open, depending where you go. But I will say what I see being pushed is kind of like the red pill kind of. It started as like pickup, pickup,
yes,
and then it's just like red pill, which is basically what. How can I sum it up? It's like just do like take what you want from a woman, which is basically what sex and that's it. And this is something I like fell into as well, but like alhamdulillah, I was like granted with a very strong fitra, very strong nature, and I could never do it, man. I would like try to do like a one night stand with these girls. I'm like, yeah, I like her though. I feel like comfortable around her. Like I want to see her
mashallah.
again. I can, like, but my buddies were telling me like, no, dude, just like do it and then just like throw them aside. But I'm always like, oh no, I like she's nice. I like her. Like so I couldn't never really do that myself. But that seems to be what it is. And yeah, I can't recommend this at all because I think it goes against all of our nature, which like to 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 have an intimate interaction with a female and then to just throw them aside and pretend like you don't care about them is just a complete lie. You you're gonna feel bad about that later, and you're gonna like you just created a connection with a woman that is very deep, and you're lying to yourself if you think you didn't. You're just think, oh yeah, just get off, and then like it's just like a dog, just throw it out. Like no, it's much more deep than that. So for that reason, I think that the entire like red pill scene and the pickup thing, it's like it's inherently flawed because you're gonna end up older and you're gonna be like, okay, yeah, I've slept with all these women, but like, and then what? Like, okay, maybe you have money now, even, or maybe you don't, but like, if you do have money, so what? Then you have money, and then you can have stuff, or you can go places, right? But these are all just like worldly things that are temporary. You can go to nice restaurant. Like literally, what can you do with money? You can go to restaurants. You can travel. You can see things and buy things. It's all things and stuff and places. It's nothing. You want to have children. That's what you really want. Like, let me just speak directly to your deepest being, right? You
Yeah,
want to have children. That's what you really want, and that's what is ultimately going to. What's the verse in the Quran? Like children and wealth, I think, are the embellishments of this world. So it's like the best thing you can have in this world is children. It's not. I think that verse goes on to say that, of course, it's not like the ultimate thing. Like your deen, your religion is
yeah,
the true foundation. But as far as worldly things go, kids are like way up there, way higher than like sleeping with women.
100%.
It's way, way, way higher. But that takes responsibility, and it takes effort, and it takes like emotional maturity and stuff that's not that easy. Dude, sleeping with women is not hard. Like anybody that's out there saying like, oh, this is so cool, and like it's freaking not hard, man. They're like, it's like basically a script you can go through, and it works like a
Yeah,
certain percentage of time, and then you know what I mean, you just rinse and repeat. It's not hard, bro. And it's empty. Um yeah, it's really nonsense. So that's what I see as far as like that's what's being considered masculine most of the time. But like real masculinity, I see is like having first a foundation of your religion to rule out what is right and what's wrong, and that's very masculine. That's very logical. Men should be about that. Like what? Okay, it's not about how I feel. It's what is right and what's wrong. Whereas women are a little bit more tied into that feeling thing, which is also
yeah,
good sometimes. It's also good, But sometimes you need to be like, okay, that aside, completely aside, what is the right thing to do based on uh, the rules and the way that we should the key word should be doing, not how we feel like we should be doing. So yeah.
Mashallah, bro. I think you summed that up perfectly. I think it's a strange one because the things with Red Pill, as you mentioned, you sort of fell into it a little bit, but you couldn't quite bring yourself to really indulge into it. For me, it was I fell into it massively for a number of years, and the thing about it is that I came to a realization also that would I want my sister to be treated like that? Like,
There you go.
it's that kind of thing where it's a completely selfish act where you are it's hedonism. It's another form of hedonism where you're only thinking about your own pleasure, right? You're not thinking about this other person who emotionally you could be ruining. And also, if that happens to your sister, man, I'll kill someone over that. Like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
yeah, it's a bunch of nonsense. But I also do think it's an overcorrection of the sort of opposite end of the spectrum, the whole feminism and also the feminization of men, right?
Yeah.
Is that
That's a good
kind
way
of
to put it.
overreaction. So yeah, it's a crazy world we're living in, man. Honestly, it's I'm sure in Thailand it's you look over at the West and you're thinking, oh, it's crazy over there. What's happening?
Yeah, it is, but it's just like, I don't know. All the same problems are here. All the same problems are here. It's
Really?
just, yeah, it's just manifested differently, and it's not as, I don't know. In the West, yeah, it's just louder. It's just louder in the West because everyone's looking at the West, man. People don't realize this. Like when you live in a different culture in a different place, like you realize like everyone's almost following the West in a lot of
Mm,
ways. Like Thais look at the West and they think like they're doing everything right, and the more we're like them, probably the better things are going to be. Like that's actually what they think, and so we the Westerners have like a big responsibility to not be idiots and like realize the consequences of our actions and
Westerners
actually
don't
think
care
about
though,
what we're doing.
really.
Say what?
I don't think like not Westerners, individuals themselves, but country, like the Western countries don't care about that. That's not anything they care
Well, they
about.
don't even realize it's happening. Most of them, I think, they don't
Do you
even
think?
realize.
I feel like it's all planned, no?
Really,
I think
you
so, bro.
you mean you mean the powers that be have like set up the spotlight on the, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can definitely relate to the whole point of like it's all around the world, but in Southeast Asia, like I'm half Filipino, right? So every
Oh no
time
way.
I every time I go back, it's more and more Western, and in a sense, it's good because it's a sign of progression and wealth, and the living standards are getting better, right? But then you just see like more nightclubs, more bars, more of all of these hedonistic, degenerate sort of
Yeah.
stuff, and yeah, it's hard to find a balance. Obviously, it's better to be more Islamic, but try selling that to a feminist.
Yeah. Well, I think not all people are meant to become Muslims.
Yeah,
It's just all down to Allah's will. But at the same time, it's crazy to think like some people become Muslim. Like even myself, my teacher always says like how funny it is to him when he looks at my past. Like, how did I become a Muslim? He's like, how did you become a Muslim? It makes no sense. So
alhamdulillah, man.
Allah is the best of planners, but not all people. It's not meant for all people, I guess. And that's just the reality.
Yeah. I want to quickly, so last sort of thing want to talk about, I want to touch on what you sort of have planned for the future. I guess, I mean, you've been posting videos for quite a while, but you've really focused on Islam relatively recently, right? So like 6 months or so. Is there anything in particular that you have planned? Is there a direction that you see your channel going in? Because at the moment you're doing mainly reactions. Are you going to
Yeah.
carry on with that? Or
Um, that's a good question. I think like the channel at first had a lot of growth, and it's still growing.
yeah.
Alhamdulillah. But it's like I'm a new Muslim, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's cool, new Muslim. Look." But then what? Then what do you do, right? It's like, um, more importantly, like, yeah, I'm grateful to have this channel and to have the platform, but it's like it needs to have some kind of foundation because it's grown with the foundation of like, oh, it's a new Muslim, that's cool. But then where do you go? Because I'm not going to be a new Muslim forever. Then I'm just going to be like, oh yeah, there's that American guy that became a Muslim and now
Yeah.
he's Muslim. right? That's okay. He's Muslim. There's a lot of Muslims in the world. There's millions of Muslims.
2 billion.
Um, yeah, there's 2 billion. Yeah, there's billions now. So what is unique? So I'm more focusing on like getting knowledge and however Allah wants to use me. I guess I think it. I like I said, we're both still kind of unicorns. We're both kind of unique, and I think that the West is in a unique uh, spot right now, in a unique time in history, unique blip in history, a crossroads. And I think, inshallah, people like you and me can help to kind of be the messengers to kind of be like, okay, we've like I mentioned Alan Watts earlier in this interview. Alan Watts was unique because he went over to the East, he learned about Buddhism, and then he was able to relay it to the Western world. He
Mm,
would translate basically and say like, okay, this is what they really believe. I know you guys see all this stuff, but you don't really understand it. So let me explain it to you. So inshallah, people like you and me can help to kind of be a helping hand to those people that are from the West and like, okay, like I'm open to Islam. What is it? And then we can perhaps, or maybe we could perhaps open them up in the first place. Who knows? However,
yeah,
Allah wants to use us. So I want to keep putting myself out there to, for the sake of Allah, to help people and to help new reverts and to also inspire new Muslims or lifelong Muslims rather. But I I keep reminding myself like, okay, Daniel, you have to have knowledge to do that. You have to have
yeah,
knowledge. So
of course.
I'm 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 putting some focus on that um, for now, but I'm still uploading. Still uploading.
Sounds good, bro. Inshallah, we can do that. Yeah, I was speaking. I don't know if you've heard of Simon Says Squat. He's quite big on Instagram. He's another revert. He's Swedish. Like he's white, blonde, blue eyes, and he was mentioning that okay, human nature is just to see someone who looks like you, and you find that relatable, and you're more willing to trust them. So the fact that you're a
Yeah,
revert and you don't traditionally look like a Muslim, if there's a
yeah,
way to say that politically correct. But anyway, that in itself is very, very powerful because then you'll have other white Americans who have blonde
yeah.
hair who will look at you and be like, "Oh, he's a respectable guy. You know, he's doing well. Maybe that I can, look into this." And I guess similar with me, I'm covered in tattoos, so you get
Mhm.
you get a lot of those types of people. But yeah, it's very powerful and like I remember when I was first looking into Islam and I used to think like Islam's not for me. Like I don't look Muslim with all my
Yeah,
tattoos. Like I'm not like brown. I'm not from the Middle East. I'm not from Pakistan or wherever, you
right.
know? So yeah, I think the things you were saying were extremely powerful and hopefully inshallah we can bring more people to Islam and yeah,
Yep.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, you well said, man. Like it, it can help to see somebody that looks like you to open you up to things. Yeah,
Mm,
it can. So that's really Allah is the greatest of planners, man. Like everything happens for a reason, and you look like you look for a certain reason, and I look like I look for a certain reason. But what I want to say is, just relating back to what I was saying before, is like you have to have, just like in boxing, it's like you might have all these dangerous weapons, but if you're not positioned correctly first, then you can't use it.
yeah.
So, in order for us to to help people into Islam or within Islam, we first have to be positioned with the knowledge first.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we can just pray to Allah for guidance and for knowledge, and then yeah, inshallah, we can help people because yeah, like you said, we have a big opportunity because these when these brown people are preaching to the Western world, they're like, we don't want to hear it. You're a
Mm,
different color. That's for you, and this is for me. But when we come in the picture and we're like, hey, we understand what they're saying. Actually, there's what they're trying to tell you is this, and this is how it relates to your life. And we look like them. They're more likely to listen, inshallah.
inshallah, bro. But yeah, you know what? I think that's a perfect spot to wrap up this podcast. Really, really enjoyed it, bro. Honestly, I feel like there were some areas that I don't think you've spoken about on podcasts before or live streams. So
Definitely, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
really, really interesting. I want to thank you for coming on. You know, I reached out and you responded fairly quickly, and you were
Mhm.
super up for it. So yeah, really appreciate your time. And
Alhamdulillah.
any last words?
Um, oh man, just do everything for the sake of Allah, and yeah, thank you for having me on.
Appreciate it, bro. Yeah, I'm gonna leave the link to your channel, and if you have an Instagram, I'll leave that in this in the description below. So yeah, if you enjoyed the conversation, go and follow him, subscribe to our brother here, and support him in all of his endeavors. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining, brothers and sisters, and I'll catch you next week. I believe I have someone lined up, so yeah, inshallah, we'll see. But assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.